I'm Pete McCarthy for SNY.TV, and this is Know Your Enemy, presented by Pepsi Max. The Mets return home from the West Coast to host Miami at Citi Field for a 3-game set beginning tonight. So calling in to help us scout the fish is Michael Jong from the Marlins blog fishstripes.com. And Michael, let's start with the good for the Miami Marlins. There has been a ton of it this season, but we will see tonight Giancarlo Stanton come back after missing a month due to arthroscopic knee surgery.
Yes, Pete, having Giancarlo Stanton back is a major plus for the Miami Marlins. This last month of July has been a real struggle without having him on board. The lineup has been really struggling because without that central presence of Giancarlo Stanton in the cleanup spot, the Fish have been lacking in power, and with the recent trades as well, the lineup depth has not been where it was at the beginning of the season, which, to be honest, wasn't very good at the start of the year anyway. So the Marlins are really looking forward to having Stanton and his power bat back in the middle of the lineup, and with a hot Jose Reyes and Carlos Lee, the team will finally get a chance to see whether the lineup combination that they were looking to use for all of July when they acquired Carlos Lee at the beginning of the season will actually pay off and maybe see some wins come through.
So Stanton, their lone all-star, should be back. Now, as for the Marlins overall this season, they had very high expectations going into the new ballpark, made a number of acquisitions last year, but injuries really hurting this team, and now after the most recent sell-off, I mean, what kind of team are we looking at in the Miami Marlins? Does it at all resemble the team that was there even 2 months ago?
It's hard to see the resemblance between the 2012 Miami Marlins of April and May and the ones that are playing right now. Many of the central pieces are still there. Your Jose Reyes, Giancarlo Stanton, they're still anchoring the lineup, but a lot of the players that surrounded them are already gone. As we know, the Marlins traded Hanley Ramirez, they traded away Omar Infante, and that's already 2 spots at third base and second base that the Marlins had to try and fill, on a whim, in a hurried fashion. As a result, the team had to put in players that they weren't very comfortable with. They did acquire Justin Ruggiano, who was a big help in June and July. His bat has continued to be hot, and now the team is playing him regularly in center field. And they moved Emilio Bonifacio, who had returned from injury in July, back to second base. Unfortunately, Bonifacio also suffered an injury, and so now he's out for at least a couple of weeks with re-injuring his thumb. And so as a result, you're looking at guys like Greg Dobbs at third base, Brian Peterson and Scott Cousins in the corners, in one of the corners in left field. And this just isn't the same team that the Marlins expected to field at the start of 2012.
And it's a bit of a different look in the rotation as well. Anibal Sanchez was dealt to the Detroit Tigers, so we'll see on Tuesday tonight. Wade LeBlanc will be starting for the Marlins, and he's still gearing up after transitioning from the bullpen?
Yeah, Wade LeBlanc had a nice, solid start. The last time he was out, he helped the Marlins beat the Atlanta Braves, pitched 4 1/3 innings, 3 strikeouts, 1 walk, a good, solid outing. He didn't get the innings that we would have liked to see, but the Marlins pulled him at the right time, and they're hoping that he can work back up to 5 or 6 innings, because really, as of late, the Fish have been taxed in terms of their bullpen because their starters haven't been able to go deep. So LeBlanc, we're looking to get him to get a couple of innings more, maybe 5 or 6 innings. And for the most part, he works. He's their typical slow-throwing left-hander. He doesn't have a lot of great strikeout stuff, but he'll try to hold back the walks and maybe not give up home runs. It's not an easy thing for him, but we are playing in Citi Field, and so maybe that'll also help him out.
Another big ballpark along with Miami. Tomorrow, Nathan Eovaldi came over in the Hanley Ramirez deal. What have been some of the early returns on him as he makes his 3rd start with the Fish?
Well, Nathan Eovaldi, he had 1 good start and 1 bad start, right? So he pitched against San Diego to debut for the Marlins, and he pitched very well. Struck out 5 hitters in 5 1/3 innings and allowed 2 walks. One of the big problems with him when he came in was a lack of control, and the fact that he had been missing a strikeout or an out pitch aside from that 94-mile-an-hour fastball. And those problems actually did come to light in his next start against Atlanta. He could barely get out of 2 innings, and he gave up 6 hits and 6 runs. And so I'm not sure if Eovaldi is going to turn out to be a good pitcher in 2012. I mean, he certainly did well in Los Angeles, so you can maybe chalk up the Atlanta start to maybe some bad luck. I mean, it was raining as well, and the Marlins were forced to work in rainy conditions along with the Braves in order to get them out of the in order to get as much out of the game as possible. So perhaps he can chalk that up to some bad luck. Tonight, Eovaldi will look to get a better start against the Mets and maybe see if he can induce more strikeouts, induce more whiffs like he was against San Diego.
He's still a very young player, Eovaldi. Then, of course, Thursday it'll be Josh Johnson, the ace for the Marlins. There were some trade rumors around him. He's still there with the Fish, and he's coming off a big-time start against the Nationals.
Absolutely. He dueled Gio Gonzalez, who has been excellent also this year for the Washington Nationals, and he just beat him. He just beat him straight out. Johnson pitched 8 2/3 innings, allowed 2 runs, struck out 9 batters without walking a hitter. It was a very impressive start. Very similar to the start he had a couple weeks back when those trade rumors were persistent around him. He had a 2-0 shutout of the Atlanta Braves at home, but he also sandwiched a bad start against Atlanta that actually was said to perhaps keep him in the Marlins rotation. A lot of scouts were in the a lot of scouts were in the area, and they were discussing whether or not he was going to get traded. They were looking to see if a team would offer at the trade deadline, and he didn't perform well, walked a career-high 6, and as a result, he's still on the Marlins. But I think the Fish are pretty happy to have him. He's looked like an ace the last 2 months, and they're looking to see if he can stay in 2009-2010 form.
And he's always pitched well against the Mets, 8-1 in his career against the Amazons. Michael, thanks so much. We appreciate it.
No problem, Pete. Thanks for having me.
And remember, for all the latest Mets coverage, be sure to check in at MetsBlog.com and SNY.TV.